Hello everybody, I am so freaking excited because last night during the Game Awards, Supergiant Games, which is one of my favorite game studios of all time, announced a surprise game and released it. It is in early access, but don't let that discourage you because it works really well for what this game is. Now, Supergiant is known for what is essentially becoming their calling cards, which is incredible art styles matched with amazing music and incredible voice acting on top of amazing storytelling and narrative design. That all matched with the best game design that you've seen and incredible polish on top of all of that. So when you put all of that together, you get these rather unique games and titles that they've released, such as Bastion, Transistor, and Pyre. Bastion and Transistor are both really good action RPGs that had a great narrative. Bastion was their first game and was kind of their first test at how they wanted to set up their style of games, and it worked out incredibly well for them. I think Bastion is a masterpiece of a game, and then they came out with Transistor to show that they can do things a little different, and in fact they did. I think Transistor is a masterclass in game design. We'll talk about that in a moment, but outside of that, they released those two, and then they kind of got known for doing action RPGs, so they decided to change it up and make their own entire game, which is one of the most unique games in the entire industry at the moment, which is Pyre. And I always have a hard time describing what that game is. It's a visual novel mixed with NBA Jam, mixed with a BioWare RPG. It's just, there's a lot going on in that game. It's impossible to describe other than the fact that it is fantastic. I would highly suggest playing Pyre if you haven't, even though it is rather unique. So when you take those three releases that they've done so far, and you consider after announcing those games, it was usually a couple years later before we ever saw it, it's rather surprising when they came out last night and announced Hades, and then said you can play it right now. Now, I'm sure Epic Games has something to do with that because it released on the Epic Games storefront for early access, which is a new storefront that, Epic isn't necessarily trying to compete with Steam, but they are at the same time. They see that they have a really good foothold in the industry at the moment. They are the creators of Fortnite, which is the biggest game in the world right now. And they have the sway to be able to release their own storefront and do cool things with it. So with that, they've released a couple cool indie games on there as well, including this one, and I'm so excited to talk about it. So what is Hades? Well, Hades is a rogue-lite action RPG that combines elements from their three previous games, Bastion, Transistor, and Pyre. It has the combat system from Bastion mixed with the skill system from Transistor, and of course the narrative design of Pyre. When you combine all three of that stuff, you actually get an amazing game, and it's kind of a no-brainer that it all works together in the way that Supergiant does their games. Their style and their music and their narrative design, it all works really well for a game like this. In fact, I think the best analog to this game is Dead Cells. You look at Dead Cells, it released last year, it was highly successful, and that too was a rogue-lite adventure. It has kind of the same premise. In Hades, you're trying to escape the underworld, and you're doing so through the help of various Greek gods, such as Athena and Zeus, and they're coming in and they're trying to help you by giving you boons and skill ups. But when you die in the underworld, you get returned to the beginning with some of the knowledge that you had before. Anytime you enter this dungeon crawl, the dungeon will be different than the last time you did, and you'll have to choose different skills in order to go through. You can buy various different weapons, you can upgrade your base stats so you're a little bit more powerful each time you go in, and of course the more that you go through the dungeon, and the more that you see, the more you're going to learn, and you'll be more prepared the next time you go through it. So that is very indicative of, Dead Cells, where the idea is you're going through the game and you're kind of learning and leveling up as you go, and you're going to get further and further as you go. It takes that system, and just like Dead Cells, it throws it into early access. That seems like it should be a bad thing. Like, early access has kind of over the past few years become a bad word in game design. But in this case, with the rogue-lite system, it works really well. It's probably the best way, in my opinion, at the moment to do a roguelite game, because you're able to test, get feedback, and adjust things as you go. And it's much more difficult to do that inside of a studio. If you have, hundreds of thousands of people going through and doing the story and figuring the game out and giving you feedback on it, you're going to get through the development of a roguelite way quicker. So does this all work together for Hades? I don't think I need to answer that question. I think you just need to watch the gameplay in the background and you'll find out for yourself. Because I don't think that at this current time, Supergiant can make a bad game. They are on a really good streak right now with their 3 games they've previously released, and then just combining all 3 of those games kind of into one giant cool roguelite experience. It's hard to go wrong. And the thing is, the narrative is one of those things that in a roguelite may or may not grab you. Especially in a game that is rather difficult and puts a focus on gameplay. The narrative will tend to fall into the background. That's not the case here. The narrative, if you're interested in, story, is going to be something that really draws you in. They've done something unique with the Greek gods, and so far, I have really enjoyed myself. As far as gameplay, if you enjoy action RPGs like, I don't know, Devil May Cry or Bastion or even Transistor, and if you're someone who enjoys something of the gameplay of Dark Souls, where the game could be really difficult and unforgiving, and you combine that with a very replayable experience, then it's probably going to be something that you enjoy, if that sounds all cool to you. If you're the kind of person that's like, no, I just want more of a chill experience, and a game that sounds like Dark Souls or any kind of roguelite that doesn't seem interesting to me, then maybe steer clear of it. However, the narrative experience will drag you through it pretty easily. You can play through this game a number of times, or play through the experience that they have a number of times, and it's going to be different for most people who play through it. You're going to see different stuff. It's going to happen in a different order. You're going to upgrade things differently. You can go through at your own pace. There is no pressure to push through really quickly. And as the game currently exists in early access, you have to get through 27 levels of the underworld. So each time you go through a new door, that is kind of a new level. The furthest I got in the footage in the background, which I did last night, is level 10, and that was on my second playthrough, so I don't think there's a huge amount of content there at the moment within the game, but it is something that they are expanding upon. They even have a countdown timer for the next update right on the loading screen, or rather the start menu, which is really cool. They have obviously a content plan. And the danger with early access games is that you get into a point where the game just doesn't really ever release, or it gets trapped in development hell. A good example of this is DayZ, which is finally releasing out of early access out of all of this time. Hopefully that's not going to be the case for Hades. It doesn't appear to be the case because, again, they've got a good team, they know what they're doing, and they already have a content update plan set out. So what are the standout things so far from me with about 30 minutes to an hour of play? Well, first and foremost, the combat is so good. It is really fluid and fast and polished, and it feels really fun to play. And in a game where you're doing a lot of gameplay, having it fun to play is a very important thing. On top of that, I really like how the skill system works. So basically, you unlock different weapons, and you can choose one weapon to go with on your next, dungeon crawl through it. And that weapon gives you access to 3 unique attacks, or 2 unique attacks and then one kind of special one. And I think the special one changes as you get different upgrades within the game, but for example, you have the sword that you start out with, but you can get a bow, and there's a couple other really cool weapons that look available, but it also looks like they're going to have much more added in the future. And as you play through and you're going through the dungeon, you'll get random upgrades to skills. So it'll like pop up a set of 3 that you can choose from. And it's like, hey, what do you want to go with this time? And anytime you go through the dungeon, it's going to be, different. You're going to be getting different upgrades. Maybe you won't get an upgrade at all. There's a lot of different variables there. So the replayability for each weapon is different. And the fact that when it pops up skills to upgrade, it'll have different modifiers on it. So sometimes it'll be something like, it makes your attack chain, or it makes your special attack do more damage or attack faster, or your dash will go slower, but you can deal damage by dashing through people. So there's like a lot of additional content there that is very indicative of the Transistor skill system, and I really, really like that, because that skill system was fantastic, and this is no exception to that. It looks incredible, the combat feels really good, and when you combine that with their music and everything, it just feels really fun to play. So the combat is a big standout to me. Also, the narrative, unsurprisingly, is really cool. I think they did something cool and unique with the Greek gods, and the voice acting that they have in the game thus far is fantastic. I'm really happy with it so far, especially coming off of the back of Pyre, which had little to no voice acting in it, and it was truly a visual novel. And if you want to see me voice act that game, I did a full playthrough of it. I read everything. It was fun. I did little voices. It was silly. It was cool. I will put the link to that at the end of the video and in the description. So don't worry about that. But it was a lot of fun. I would suggest watching it if you've never seen or played Pyre. So they have everything voice acted in this so far that I can tell. And the voice acting is superb. The storytelling is superb, and when you're playing through the game and you're getting like little bits of dialogue as you go, especially with there being some sort of narrator. I can't tell if it's a narrator or if it's just like some omnipresent butler who's constantly talking to you and berating you, but it reminds me of a combination between the narrator in Bastion and the Transistor in Transistor. And Logan Cunningham does a fantastic job, once again, doing the voice acting for that. So it kind of guides you through the game. It gives you a lot more feeling of being in the world, and it really tries to pull you into their story through the voice acting and the storytelling, and it does a great job. And of course, the visual design of the game is superb. It's a Supergiant game. Their art is fantastic. It is well done. It's all hand-drawn, and it looks so gorgeous, just like all of their other games. On top of that, everything is well animated, and I really like how you have something that's rather subtle. They did it in a couple of their previous games, and they continue to do it here, which is that the character is slightly different colored than the world. The world has a cool art style. It is rather unique, but then the character is just kind of stands out from that, so you're able to see yourself. And it is kind of subtle, but it's little things like that Supergiant does really well. It's that amount of polish that kind of makes the game feel really fun to play and to be in at any given time, that you just want to keep going with it. And that's a good thing too, because the more you keep going with this game, the more powerful your character is going to get, and eventually you will get to the end of the dungeon and you will escape the underworld. I am really looking forward to whatever content they continue to add, and I've thought to myself, like last night when I was playing, I was like, should I not be doing B-Reel? Should I just like do a playthrough of this? And my thing that I landed on, my choice that I made was no, I shouldn't, because the game isn't finished yet. It is an early access title. They are testing things, and while there is an end to the early access, it feels like I want to wait until the game is a bit more fleshed out to do a playthrough of it. I've done a playthrough of every game so far from Supergiant. Bastion was one of my first playthroughs I ever did on the channel. Is it a good playthrough? No, I was really bad at what I did back then. I arguably, I'm still pretty bad at it, but it was a very old playthrough, and it's hard to go back and watch, especially with poor microphone quality, like way back in the day. That was like 8 years ago, right? And then when it came to Transistor, I did a playthrough of that. and I got a lot better at what I was doing, so I really enjoyed that. I think Pyre was a fantastic playthrough for me, and I really enjoyed what I did there. So when it comes to Hades as a playthrough, of course I'm going to do one eventually, but I want to wait until the early access has quite a bit more content in it before I decide to do that, or just wait until it officially launches. I think that might be a pretty cool thing to do, and by then I'll probably be really good at the game, so we can do some awesome stuff with it, because you're damn right I'm going to be playing this every single update they come out. Again, Supergiant is one of my favorite games, or my game studios, and when it comes to their games, they are just completely up my alley. They're perfect for me. I love their games, and this is no exception thus far. So, you know, I could see myself playing a lot of this game over the next year. When is it releasing? I don't know. I don't know when the actual release is, but so far it feels really polished. It feels like they got a lot going for it, so I wouldn't expect it to be in early access too long, and I would expect them to take everybody's feedback and make an excellent game with it. And if this sounds really interesting to you and you're not really pushed away by the idea of early access, you can go pick up the game on the Epic Store for $20. That is going to give you the game forever. You're not going to lose it. And if you're someone who's like, you know what, I really want the game on Steam, then just wait for it to come to Steam. Eventually it'll come to Steam and console and everything. You could probably get it on your Switch when it releases. I wouldn't be too concerned about that. You know, get the game when you want to get it on the platform you want to get it on. I'm the kind of guy, as far as Supergiant Games are concerned, that I tend to buy it on everything. I think I own Bastion on every platform it's on, even though I don't own every platform that it's on. I've just bought it on everyone because I wanted to support that game. Same goes for Transistor. And if this game comes to my phone, you're damn right I'm going to be playing it on my phone all the time. It would be a great, what I call a pooper game, where, you know, you can play through a couple levels in a dungeon and be done with your business and, you know, move on with your life. Obviously, the game goes, or the same goes for Switch, but, you know, if you're looking to buy on console, then just wait for it to come on console. If you want it right now, if this sounds like a really cool idea and this is something that you're interested in and you're not too busy playing, I don't know, like Red Dead Redemption 2 or any other game that's come out recently, then yeah, go pick it up on the Epic Store for $20. Really good. Especially considering I think there's about to be a pretty big shift in the industry right now with Epic releasing their store and what they're doing with that, so I wouldn't be too surprised to see more people using the Epic Store, so don't be too thrown off with buying it on that as opposed to Steam. All of that said, though, this game is worth it. This game is worth going to a different storefront and having a game on there because it is a fantastic game. And if you're someone who's jumped in on the Fortnite hype, you're probably not going to have an issue jumping in on the Epic Game Store. But this is absolutely a game to keep your eye out on. If you're not going to pick it up right now, wait until it comes out, because so far it is really fun and there is a very good likelihood that it will end up on a very high part of my games of all time. Right now, Transistor is in the top 5 games that I love. So I'm having kind of a lot of fun with this. I can't say for sure until the game actually fully releases, but in its current state, I'm like, you know, Transistor is my favorite Supergiant game. This is feeling more fun than Transistor. I like this more than Transistor. That says a lot because Cyberpunk is my favorite setting, and Transistor really gets that itch for me. This is just a good game, and I cannot wait to see more of it. Let me know in the comments below what you think of the game. Is it a game that you're going to wait to pick up? Is it a game you're going to pick up right now? Is it a game that even interests you? Do you think that it's really cool that, you know, they're trying something new with a rogue-lite? What do you think of early access? Like, I want to know all this stuff because this is a game I want to talk about. I want to talk about it with you guys because I'm super excited about it. With that being said, though, we shall see you guys